Ranger Series Black, you still owe me 3 minutes of shield sequence training.
Bill me.
Coming soon, Women in Refrigerators 2, The Fridge Fights Back. Welcome, my friends, to Power Rangers RPM. Bit of a tangent to start things off, since I'm sure it will dominate the comments section, despite making this video dated. Yes, I saw the Power/Rangers short film. I am not calling it a fan film because that would require the filmmaker to be an actual fan, which he is not. He created it as a parody of grim and gritty Hollywood reboots of silly children's entertainment and holds little or no respect for Power Rangers itself. That's fine, it's not for everybody. That being said, it was also a completely unnecessary film to make, even as a parody. Not that I don't appreciate the idea of parodying it, I just don't feel it was a particularly good parody. Since to many, they did not realize it was supposed to be satire until they were told it was satire. If you liked it, great! I did not, and I feel no need to ever watch or think about it ever again. Although I admit I laughed my ass off at the hip-hop Aikido bit. Now let's get off of this divergence from what we normally talk about by diverging into something else we don't normally talk about. I hate multiple continuities. I just do. I hate it in Digimon, I hate it in Gundam, I hate it in comics, I hate it in Transformers, and yes, I hate it in Power Rangers. It's probably right there with my issue with reboots. You're basically telling the same story over again, and usually not as well. And no, do not take that to mean that reboots or different continuities are always bad. Taking from the examples I just mentioned, many of those different continuities are better than the originals they spawned from. But it's frustrating for me since I prefer an ongoing story. Maybe it's because I come from a background with superhero comic books or even Star Trek, where, until an honest-to-goodness reboot came along, it was a continuous story for decades. The focus may change, the characters will develop, move on, or sometimes regress in the hands of lesser writers, but we're still seeing the next chapter, the next stage. And that's how it is in life. You live for each day, each new chapter of your own existence, and then new people come along after you're gone, new characters in the ongoing narrative of the world. That might be another factor. I don't want to see things end. I want to see things go forth and live on, revealing what the next step is going to be. But don't imagine that I'm blind to the problems with that. Superhero comic books are probably the biggest offender here, where you have a story that has gone on for 60 years and yet the characters still act like they did back when it started. There are just tons and tons of problems with trying to keep a story going for so long. Different continuities let you explore things you couldn't before, and it allows there to be finality on where they're going to be at the end of their story. Why do I bring all this up? Because today we're looking at Power Rangers RPM, a series that, until a team-up episode in Power Rangers Samurai, was an odd creature that no one could quite figure out if it was in continuity or not. SPD at least had the advantage of taking place in the future beyond what the target demographic was going to care about in terms of whether the future matched reality. RPM is a Power Ranger series that takes place in a post-apocalyptic environment that otherwise seems to be modern times. Unless your next Power Ranger series takes place within that same world, it's gonna make team-ups kind of awkward, is what I'm saying. As such, when Power Ranger Samurai had its team-up episode, Clash of the Red Rangers, it was officially declared that RPM existed in an alternate universe. And like I said, while I dislike multiple continuities as a general principle, well, I'm not really against it in this case. The premise makes it difficult at best to fit it into the continuity otherwise, and we no longer have to scratch our heads wondering, why the hell isn't this team or that team stepping in to help? Hell, we already have a continuity nightmare with SPD giving us actual years it takes place in, but now we have the apocalypse somewhere in there too. As such, the only way to make this work is to either have it be much farther in the future, or just say that it's an alternate universe. Many people were surprised when I said at the end of the Jungle Fury videos that RPM is the most divisive season amongst fans, since there seemed to be an overwhelming amount of people who loved it. Well, I can't speak for their own experiences, only for mine, and the reaction I've gotten from people is both excitement for covering their favorite series, and others hoping I will eviscerate what they feel is something unworthy. I've gotten love and hate for this season in droves. It is rather fascinating to leap into this one like I am. When I first began History of Power Rangers, the series was pretty much over, and RPM was the last one. Perhaps people have gone back and reevaluated it positively or negatively simply due to the fact that new seasons came out, so they no longer had to think about it purely from the standpoint of it being the final Power Rangers series. Mind you, from what I understand, it wasn't going to be the final season. Jungle Fury was. Which definitely would have been a shame. Much as I like Jungle Fury, the lack of connection to other Ranger seasons would have made it a very disappointing note to end the franchise on. It's like Scrubs Season 9. I personally love it and found it funny. It's just that they had already had a perfect finale, so while more is nice, it's unnecessary and runs the risk of souring what came before. Which in this case was Overdrive versus Jungle Fury, so I guess if it had ended there, we probably should have just been happy we had a good series to end on. So, RPM, once more the intended finale to Power Rangers. It is rather amusing that that keeps happening. The series keeps reaching a natural endpoint, and then it keeps on going. As I've discussed in previous installments, Disney did not really like Power Rangers all that much. Interviews with production people keep telling the same story. Disney seemed embarrassed by Power Rangers. After all, the series had been bought years before strictly to be played in reruns, and it was only allowed to continue due to a slashing of the budget and moving production to New Zealand. From there, apparent executive edicts came down about the violence level of the show, the cost of making it, executives thinking characters were swearing, or just telling the production team to simply dub the Sentai. The greatest enemy of Power Rangers is and always shall be money. So why wasn't the series canceled after Jungle Fury? Well, bear in mind that all information I know about this is secondhand from other fans and interviews with people and the like, so if I'm wrong, I'm sure the comments will reflect this. Basically, Jetix Europe, a European broadcasting company that handled children's programming and channels, had Disney under contract to continue producing Power Rangers for at least one more season. Hell, Bandai was apparently going to keep making toys whether there was a show or not. I have two different stories of what happens after that, both perfectly plausible. One is that Eddie Gazelian, who had successfully produced many animated series for Disney, realized that Disney had a big opportunity to appeal to boys, since so much of their financial success came from the Disney Princesses line, with Power Rangers, and thus wrote up a stirring pitch for the season that would work regardless of what the Sentai footage gave him to work with, and would appeal to older viewers. The other story is that Disney brought on Gazelian already since Bruce Kalish was leaving the show to work on his own original series, and since they had to produce the show anyway, they wanted something drastically different. That the show's sensibilities had been gradually skewing younger and younger, and they wanted something that could appeal to both an older and younger audience. Regardless of whose idea it was, the message was as clear as it was back in Power Rangers in Space. The show is effectively canceled anyway, so screw it, go nuts. Most definitely to his credit, Gazelian actually bothered to watch dozens of episodes of various Power Rangers seasons over the years to formulate his pitch. I'm reminded of Harv Bennett, who was brought on to produce Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, watching all the episodes of the original series in order to figure out how the show worked and how the characters interacted, and what was the heart of things. Sure, Gazelian didn't actually watch every episode of Power Rangers, but considering at that point there were almost 700 episodes of the show, I don't think he really needed to see the one where Justin is stuck on his bicycle to understand how Power Rangers works. That being said, there's a difference between watching the show and actually working on it. Talk to any of the people who actually did work on it, and they can tell you how much of a nightmare it can be. Scheduling, acting long hours, and of course, the Sentai footage. Once more, we have a series that was pitched as something serious, and the Sentai footage was goofy as hell. For your enjoyment, Eddie Gazellion's actual reaction upon seeing the Sentai footage. This is a direct quote. "Holy shit! I just promised Disney I could turn this into a show that would appeal to an older audience! I must be out of my f***ing mind! Holy shit! Wait, what's on the front of that Zord? Are those motherfucking eyeballs?" Add on the fact that Gazelion had never worked on Power Rangers before and therefore was unused to the process, and that he had never produced a live-action series before, and he had his work cut out for him. He brought on 2 writers he'd worked with before to help, Matthew Negrete and Madeline Paxson. In an interview, he gave thanks and praise to Jackie Marchand, whom you might recall from my mentioning last time, and John Tellegen for helping him through the early pitfalls of working on a series he was unfamiliar with. However, there's also the matter of Jackie Marchand leaving the show early in its production, and seemingly not under the best circumstances. After Kalish left, given her experience with the franchise, it seems like it'd be natural for her to become the showrunner. It's rumored that this was due to Disney being pissed at her for participating in the writer's strike. Marchand herself has said that she liked the writing on RPM even though she had little involvement with it. But that was just the start of the problems with the production. Rumors abound of the show going over budget, or that Gazelion micromanaged the production to keep things in tune with his own vision, which then led to script delays. Now, the script delays are indeed true by Gazelion's own admission, which is probably a combination of having to be really creative with the lighthearted footage of Go-Onger, the Sentai RPM was adapted from, plus his inexperience working with the show or on live-action TV. However, he says he did make a plan with the executives to get back on schedule and followed through with it. And yet, halfway through the season, Gazelion was fired. Even he seems confused about why he was let go, but for whatever reason he was, and Judd Lin was brought back, last working on the show for Time Force, and rumored to have worked on Jungle Fury under a pseudonym during the writer's strike. Whatever plans Gazelion had for the ending of the series were abandoned since he hadn't had a chance to share them with the production team, and he decided it would be best not to try to advise or dictate what another producer will be doing for their own vision of the show. As a sign of solidarity, Paxson and Negrete both left the show too, creating additional writing problems. So what we have here is a show that had no support from the higher-ups, its showrunner fired halfway through, with a previous showrunner coming back to try to finish off someone else's vision, with a production that was already facing problems being behind schedule, and the transition to a new showrunner would mean more delays alongside rumors of not having enough money, plus adapting a super goofy, lighthearted series into a grim and gritty post-apocalyptic children's show about superheroes in brightly colored outfits fighting rubber-suited monsters in their giant robots with moving eyeballs. If you ever needed proof that miracles exist in this world, the fact that this season was completed at all should be evidence enough of that. Anyway, let's get to the show itself. We begin with The Road to Corinth.
A computer virus has built armies of robotic soldiers and taken control of our world. But there is still one place we can be safe. The domed city of Corinth. And the only hope we have left is... Power Rangers of the air, getting gear. Power Rangers of the air, we stand together. Power Rangers of the air, getting gear.
Huh. Yeah, you know how I've always argued that Power Rangers should have a rock theme tune? I think this one might go too far in that direction. It's not even a tune, it's just smashing your hand across the guitar in the same notes over and over. Like Mystic Force, there's a demo version of another theme song that was proposed but was rejected. And it's a lot better in my opinion.
We're here to save humanity. This is the last stand, and we'll do our best.
It's meant to be a bit darker series, so the normal style of theme song probably wouldn't work, but I judge the theme song by its overall quality, not necessarily how much it matches the show. Need I remind you that Blake's 7th theme song is one of the happiest themes ever made for one of the darkest sci-fi series ever made. If you didn't follow the rather fast introduction there, yeah, it's the end of the world. The robot apocalypse has happened, and they have taken over, with only one city remaining, Corinth. This is a bit confusing for me then in one regard. The name. Why RPM? With Turbo, it made sense. The show was still overall car-themed regardless of the tone set by the villains or the Rangers themselves. The cars were the focus. Shouldn't this series have been called Power Rangers Corinth or Robo War or just something not car-themed? The cars are not the driving force, pun not intended, of this show. While the theme song opening lines serve to get viewers up to speed quickly regardless of where you enter the series, the actual episode opens with a more detailed explanation. That 3 years ago, an artificial intelligence called Venjix emerged from the internet and quickly spread throughout computer systems in the entire world, bringing the economy and global communication to a halt. It then took control of defense systems across the world and built itself a robot army. I do love this scanned newspaper. 3 entire continents full of people? All dead. But hey, let's flip to pages 12 to 18 and see what's on Fox tonight. Naturally, the primary inspirations for the overall look and plot were post-apocalyptic 80s movies like Mad Max, The Road Warrior, and The Terminator. Gazillion felt that older audiences would appreciate the references to them, while the younger audiences who had never experienced them before would be impressed by the cool visuals and imagery of them. His study of the older seasons got him to think about the idea that in those, the villain had to justify their outlandish plans, why they were attacking at a specific time, what was inspiring them, and made things very exposition-heavy and needless justification, whereas just having a single domed city meant it was the last bastion of humanity, the last place that the robotic army would need to conquer in order to achieve total victory. Thus, attacks could happen any time without any real need to justify them. In some ways, I do actually wish this was in the main universe as the final Power Ranger season. After all, they do eventually win the battle, but at what cost? Humanity is still virtually destroyed, there's only one city remaining. How could you rebuild from that? Well, how about aliens? I spoke in the SPD review about how odd it seemed that in only a few years people seemed so unprejudiced towards aliens on Earth, and Earth was a part of galactic affairs, plus technology had advanced leaps and bounds. Well, if RPM existed in the same universe as that, it could be argued that other alien races, upon seeing the plight of Earth, decided to come and help. Think about it. Earth was the place that had defeated the United Alliance of Evil and saved the universe. They had close ties with other alien races thanks to the Equitians, the Space Rangers, the Triforians, the Phantom Ranger, and Terra Venture's journey throughout the cosmos. What if Earth went quiet for a few years thanks to this war with the machines? Alien races arrived, made contact, discovered what happened, and helped Earth rebuild in only a few short years. Alien races would be seen as the friends of humanity. But robotics? They're limited to tools and limited independent thought, and cyborgs like Sophie are met with hostility and mistrust. Not everything matches up perfectly, mind you, but hey, it's just a what-if fan theory in that regard. But yeah, even in the first 2 minutes, it's pretty clear that this is something different than what we've had before. Again, a newspaper headline reading 3 entire continents decimated. But, you know, it was probably just the abandoned buildings continents. But yeah, like Countdown to Destruction, they're not trying to hide it. Millions, if not billions of people are dead.
I am Venjix. Your world is now my world, and your time is now over.
This narration is actually a distress call of a different nature, informing people that their only hope is to come to Corinth and be quick about it, since no one will be allowed inside once its defense shield is up. Wait a second, lasers making laser sounds? Shouldn't these people be kicking things to make the laser sounds? Of course, when you broadcast a massive signal like that, it gets the attention of the enemy too. Colonel Truman here learns the bad news.
They broke through the west corridor into Zone Delta, sir. Can't hold them off.
Eagle Squad?
We lost contact with air support over an hour ago, sir. What should I do, sir?
Go shoot at something.
Sir, yes, sir.
He's just depressed because before all this started, he was going to announce the Skynet program. That would have fixed everything. But don't worry, Colonel. We've got a Scotsman here to cheer you up.
All right. You're no good pile of worthless.
All right. Right. This will be your stop, little lass.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Truman is impressed that this guy, Flynn, was able to get so many refugees through Venjix's army, but there's no time for that, since Venjix advances once again, forcing everyone to retreat inside the city walls. Truman, unfortunately, elects to raise the city's shields despite the fact that his sons are still outside the barrier. Fortunately, one of those sons has some extreme sports to help him through.
Eagle 2?
Report. Where's Eagle 1?
Eagle 1 is down, sir. He's gone.
Dismissed.
Oh, but Dad,
I said dismissed.
Come here. Let me look at that arm.
Colonel True Dick. One thing I liked with the Dome City is the climate control idea. Much like how Terra Venture's dome had a simulated sky, Corinth has one to keep up the illusion of an open environment too. It might seem odd for that to be a priority, or that it's just there for the sake of the Sentai footage, but it makes perfect sense. When you're trapped inside a caged environment like this and the entire human race is gone, psychologically you'll need something to help keep your spirits up, so seeing a bright blue sky like that is ideal for morale. We cut to 1 year later, where a guy is traveling around in his hot rod. Oh, hey, Star-Lord. He stops in the middle of nowhere when he comes across a random flower in the middle of the area, sacrificing his remaining water to it, but that turned out to be a mistake, as the foot soldiers, called the Grinders, quickly approach. However, this guy is not one to be trifled with, since he quickly dispatches the Grinders by himself without any weapons. And the pants were dead. After popping in a lollipop, this is still a kid's show after all, and checking a map and watch, he's attacked again, except not by Grinders this time. It's this guy.
Okay now, my friend. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. I'm gonna count.
No.
Wait, what no? How can you say no? I haven't even told you my demands yet.
The guy wants Mad Max's car, but he's not buying the tough act, and he's clearly not actually holding a gun, so he quickly disarms him of his exhaust pipe. Mad Max is headed for Corinth, but radiation has messed up his compass and the radio waves that are broadcasting its location, making it difficult to find even with the coordinates. I don't know how accurate the science is there, but then again, this is Power Rangers and another dimension. Radiation in this universe might make your teeth clean and white. The attacker, named Ziggy, offers to take him to Corinth and has a citizen's ID to prove it. If you're wondering why I haven't given Mad Max's real name, that's because...
I don't know my name.
Well, where are you from? I mean, who are you then?
I don't know.
They spot Corinth in the distance, and Ziggy suggests that they wait until dark to head there, but Mad Max says it's not possible. The car is running on fumes, so if he stops the engine, he won't be able to start it again.
All right, let me spell this out for you. No one has ever run the barricade into the city during daylight. Understand? No one.
Well, I'm about as close to no one as you're ever gonna meet.
Grinders on motorcycles chase after them, but fortunately the guy's got some magnetic bombs to deal with them.
Remind me never to get on your bad side.
Trust me, you're already there.
Of course, Ziggy wasn't kidding about the barricade, which quickly rises up and aims a crap ton of guns at them. Inside Corinth, they detect the approaching vehicle, but something is odd about the readings.
Definitely human. 1 or maybe 2 biofields.
Which is it, 1 or 2?
The scan must be off, sir. It's reading 1.5.
Alert Dr. K.
Ziggy accidentally activates one of his bombs inside the car and loses hold of it.
Call me Dylan.
Prepare to fire on the target. 5.
My name. You can call me Dylan.
It's been nice knowing you, Dylan.
However, when Dylan suddenly stops the car, the bomb goes flying off into the barricade, blowing a hole in it straight to Corinth. Venjix, monitoring this, in his current HAL 9000 form, orders the release of his new attack bot. Colonel Truman, in the meantime, has contacted Dr. K and wants advice on how to proceed. Dr. K, in turn, tells him to lower the shield and let them in, despite the likelihood of attack by the machines before they get the shield up.
Understood. My team is on the way.
And indeed, Venjix's army enters the front gate right behind the two and are met by the team. opening sequence is okay, nothing too spectacular, and I've seen worse. The suits are just okay. Like suggested in the opening, it's the Sentai that's kind of hindering things here design-wise, since obviously Go-Onger had more of a car and racing theme going for it, with tires acting as the lining for the boots and gloves, the seatbelt straps over the front, the headlights on the helmet. Again, it seems odd that the post-apocalyptic environment, where they would need to be very utilitarian, would have design flourishes and weirdness like that. On the other hand, though, I do like the straps, since if we follow with that efficiency idea in mind, you could argue they have some kind of function outside of aesthetic, containing equipment, projecting energy of some kind, all that jazz. That being said, the stylized number and animal motif on their chests I'm okay with, since even modern-day military will have logos like that on their equipment just for the motivation factor. They also have these computer chip things which kind of serve as both power coins and enhancements for their weapons. The Rangers quickly deal with the grinders and then chase after the monster. Ziggy calls out to the Rangers in support, but Dylan is confused.
What's a Power Ranger?
What's a Paladin?
Thanks, title card. I know what I'm watching. But yeah, this leads us into the next episode. Fade to black. The Rangers quickly deal with the monster by combining their weapons into a Matchbox car launcher. It doesn't destroy it, but it does knock it unconscious. Venjix learns of this quickly, but also that the city's shields are not fully operational again.
Send in the drones. How many drones? Your most worshipful highness, sir? All of them.
Thousands of drone ships descend upon the city, quickly blasting away at everything they see. Dylan is unimpressed, as you can see here. Fortunately, the Rangers have their Zords, vehicles naturally, and this is the bit where we clearly see the few bits of Sentai footage have been heavily modified, seeing as the Zords apparently talked in the original Sentai, so they had to reduce their usage of the Zords to the absolute bare minimum. Dylan and Ziggy spot some grinders setting up an ambush for the Rangers and ram Dylan's car into them. It redirects their weapons and manages to down a few more drones. The shield comes back up as Venjix uses his power to force the monster to regain consciousness and grow. The Rangers quickly form the high-octane Megazord, which of course looks as average as they come from Megazords, aside from the multiple pairs of eyes on the thing. They of course destroy the monster, and Summer, the Yellow Ranger, heads down to thank the two for their help. The military arrive and scan Dylan.
It's cool, guys. I'm tight with my main amigo here, Mr. Hero himself. We're like brothers.
Sir, he's an infiltrator.
I don't even know this dude.
I never even saw these assholes before.
The Rangers take the monster back to their headquarters and realize that they have to upgrade their firepower if Venjix unleashes an army of monsters like it against the city.
We're gonna have to activate Series Black. There's no way around it.
Yes, but we don't have an operator that can handle the Series Black file hardware. Where are we supposed to find one now?
Colonel Truman interviews Dylan, questioning how he could have Venjix's software throughout his body, but have no idea how it got there. Ziggy is also being interrogated, but his is actually going pretty well.
And that was the first time I ever had the courage to look myself in the mirror and just love myself unconditionally.
The cybernetic enhancements to Dylan improved his strength and reflexes, which Summer thinks makes Dylan eligible to handle the Black Ranger suit. Dylan acts like a dick to her, but Summer's not buying it.
Can I ask you a question?
Let's hear it.
Do you have to work really hard at the whole brooding bad boy thing? Like seriously, do you get up and practice every morning in front of the mirror?
Summer wants to know where Dylan is heading and hands him back his pocket watch. As for Ziggy...
Well, my friends, that is a tough thing to bounce back from, especially since by that time, the rash had spread so far down the back of...
Venjix's generals, meanwhile, propose a few monster designs of their own to send out against the city in their next attack, but Venjix reveals he has something new to show them.
I have been working on this next machine design for some time. Call it a pet project. Generals, I'd like to introduce you to Denaya 7. You see, this time I have created something that looks truly frightening, truly terrible, something that looks human.
Dylan plans to escape from the jail, and Ziggy hopes to join him, especially because it seems he has some friends in the prison, who make it clear on no uncertain terms that they plan to shiv him the first chance they get. Summer proposes the idea of making Dylan the Black Ranger to Dr. K and the others, who aren't exactly impressed. Back in prison, the guards do a fantastic job of not doing anything with the prisoners as they watch them grab Ziggy and prepare to end him for something he apparently did. At first, Dylan is more than happy to leave him to his fate, but then the leader of the gang, Ronan, makes their feelings on him clear.
You see those desserts? That one strawberry one, that one is mine. They make that just for me. It's a sign of respect. You have no respect, Ziggy. Not for anybody or anything, and that's why you'll always be a loser. An outcast. Alone.
Naturally, Dylan kicks all their asses with relative ease and then sits down to eat Jell-O. Just like in The Road Warrior. The other Rangers change their mind on Dylan when they spot footage of him kicking the asses of the criminals and offer him a job as the Black Ranger.
So, what's it gonna be, Dylan? Are you in? Or are you out?
Well, now that all depends. Do I get to pick my own color?
This brings us into the third episode, Rain. They bring Dylan to their command center called The Garage, because it's a garage. Dr. K explains about the Ranger technology.
3 years before the Vengeance virus attack, I was the leader of a research team developing exoskeletal robotic suits to amplify human strength and speed. We were attempting to harness the human body's natural electrical output to prolong the suit's battery life when we had a breakthrough. The discovery of a universal bioelectric field, an unseen energy grid that connects the life force of all living things. Manipulating this field allowed for unimagined advancements in technology, including these. The Ranger Prototype Series Covert Infantry Biosuits.
It is, again, rather interesting to look at this both as a series in-universe and as a different universe. In-universe, if we assume the Vengeance virus attacked right after Jungle Fury, Dr. K's research would put it around when SPD was airing and, as far as we know, during a time when there wasn't really an active Ranger team, unless Mystic Force took place then. Dr. K could have been a researcher at Biolabs or some independent group that was tasked with gaining access to the morphing grid. We know the government had access to it because of Lightspeed Rescue, so it couldn't actually be government authorized unless Dr. K just stumbled upon the grid while working on the exoskeleton technology. Dylan's lack of knowledge of the Rangers could be chalked up to his amnesia, but if we look at this as its own separate universe, the RPM Rangers are indeed the very first Ranger team on this planet, or at least the very first public one, assuming that there's no Zordon, Rita, or any of the other threats that existed before now, or at least some of those threats remained dormant. So how does Dylan feel about this?
Because nothing says covert like bright red, yellow, and blue spandex.
That is not spandex!
Doc K can get a little defensive about his work.
The material is a self-assembling nanofiber formed with an intercellular shape memory alloy.
My mistake. Now, is that machine washable or strictly dry clean only?
Dylan is put through a series of tests to ensure he can actually handle the wear and tear of being a Ranger, which involves drowning him at one point. It's a clever idea of why they don't just keep making an army of Rangers to fight back, that not everyone can handle the stress and power of the Ranger powers. However, Dylan still maintains he's not really up for this.
Once your DNA is bonded to the Series Black Morpher, it's permanent. We'd be trusting you with all of this.
Don't. You can't.
Why not?
I'm just not that kind of person, okay? Someone trusted me to save them once, and
You're still out there looking for them, even if you can't remember who they are. You're the kind of person I want saving me.
He finally agrees to join up, but he has one condition of his own. Ziggy is released from jail and brought with them. Anyway, it's time for him to suit up.
Series Black DNA morph bonding sequence initiated.
Seriously, this is like the third in a row where our mentor is messing with the genetics of our heroes. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a third faction in this war made up of mutant horrors created by Dr. K. The morphers are okay. They're kind of generic, sort of cell phones, but they require the little flash cards to make them work, so that's something a bit unique in their favor. Dylan seems to have his own morpher that's a bit different, seeing as it has a gear stick, It is interesting that the opening episodes focus on the Black Ranger of all things. There is a formula to Power Rangers, for better or worse, and the Red Ranger is usually the one who gets the focus. Despite Dylan telling Scott that he doesn't sleep, he has a dream that night of someone being pulled away from him and feels compelled to leave and investigate his dreams. Naturally, Venjix pulls this moment to unleash a monster and a bunch of grinders into the city. The Rangers fight valiantly, but their energy levels begin to drop rapidly under the onslaught of so many foot soldiers. It's only thanks to Ziggy, who calls up Dylan and gets him to return and help.
You take care of Big Ugly. I'll keep the grinders busy.
But Dylan!
There must be hundreds of them.
I know. Venjix should have said more.
So there's still one more Ranger suit for the core team, which leads us to the 4th episode, Go for the Green. Dr. K explains to Dylan the technobabble behind some of the extra powers granted by the Ranger suits. Something about multimodal reflection sorting affecting electrons or something, but basically that means blue can slow down time, yellow can analyze energy and release it, and similarly red can also release short bursts of massive energy. Also, this is explained to Dylan while he is spinning on a turntable. Because science. Speaking of, Dylan's power, in theory, is a 5-second shield of invincibility, capable of withstanding massive explosions. And Dylan's a rather smug sort about all this. He really needs to be reminded of what he's fighting for, the people he's trying to protect and keep safe.
You want to be a Green Power Ranger?
Yes,
What can you do?
I can sing and dance.
Truly, there is no one better suited to rebuild the human race. Ziggy has organized auditions for the Green Ranger position. Ziggy is also under the mistaken impression that it was a talent show, I guess. Unfortunately for him, it turns out Ziggy owes about $5 million to the mob.
Why, Ziggy? Why'd you do it? Is it just that you're that greedy, or you're that stupid?
Well, that'll depend on what you, Sorry, what were those 2 options again?
He's saved by this lady, Tanaya Sevenson, who was also around for the auditions.
I don't know if I have what it takes to be a ranger, but I...
No, you definitely have what it takes.
Really? Well, if you say so.
Well, now it's confirmed you have what it takes to be a Green Ranger. Tommy's eyes glowed too. Ziggy is dispatched to get the morpher to her, but she's quickly found out and she reveals herself.
I don't mean this to sound rude, but, what are you?
Tanaya, Generation 7, Venjix Human Infiltration Attack Bot. I am your thoughts and minds. I am mankind's unconscious being. I am the final evolution of
That was actually a rhetorical question.
Ziggy informs Dr. K and Dylan of what's going on.
Yeah, well, hurry, because this one's different.
Different? Different how? Explain.
Well, she's... She's enjoying this.
I would have gone with pants-crappingly terrifying, but that works too. Improving, Ziggy heads back to the mob and gets the two to fight each other while Dylan arrives to rescue him.
You've had upgrades.
What are you supposed to be?
Tanaya, Generation 7, Venjix Human Infiltration Attack Bot. I am your thoughts and minds. I am mankind's subconscious being. I am the final...
Save it.
She's not going to be happy until she can do the whole speech, is she? To keep Tanaya from DNA bonding with the morpher, Ziggy attaches it to his own arm and activates it, becoming the Green Ranger.
Ladies and gentlemen, and creepy.k computer screen, may I present to you the 5th member of our team, Ranger Green.
Nobody's particularly happy about it, except for Dylan, who points out that, regardless of how they feel, it was the only way to save the morpher from Tanaya, so they'd better get used to it. The first 4 episodes form a solid opening arc for the series, strangely focusing on Dylan of all people. Sure, little tidbits of character and backstory are provided for the other Rangers, but the focus is on him and Ziggy to a lesser degree, definitely bucking trends on the show. Power Rangers is usually pretty formulaic with a heavy emphasis on the Red Ranger, so to see him getting so little of the focus is pretty odd. Still, if you wanted to get kids into the show, introducing Dylan in as badass a manner as they have is fantastic. And while we've had serialized elements in previous seasons, reasons, it's very different to have 4 parts as interconnected as they do, with Go for the Green being a bit looser in its connection, but still needing to be there because of its introduction of more elements like Ziggy becoming the Green Ranger and Tenaya 7. The first 2 episodes are probably the most un-Power Rangers thing we've seen since the rescue mission in Lost Galaxy. It does present us something entirely new. However, by the time we get to Go for the Green, we've transitioned into fairly standard Power Rangers. Following that, Dylan has to learn how to activate his invincibility shield, which will in turn provide enough energy to power his Zord. However, the shield is based in its connection to the bioelectric field, which relies on his emotional state, specifically confidence and faith. It's kind of similar to the believe in magic thing from Mystic Force, but in this case it has a little more sense to it. Dylan is cynical, doesn't trust anyone, and has a difficult time having implicit faith in everything, especially when he already finds the Ranger stuff goofy and silly. However, he brings up a good point.
You see, it's not the suit I have a problem with. It's you.
Dylan, you're out of line.
Am I? Have you ever met or seen this Dr. K? Anybody. It could be anyone broadcasting from anywhere.
After Dylan finally masters the shield and apologizes to Dr. K, the good doctor says that they owe the team something.
Hello, Rangers. I'm Dr. K. What?
You thought I'd be taller.